Hello, and welcome into today's edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. My name is Kevin Hicks, and I am your lead beat writer for the Arizona State Sun Devils on SI, and I am so grateful to be joining you today ahead of Arizona State's massive road battle against the Mississippi State Bulldogs that is set to commence on Saturday afternoon Arizona time, and this is a beautiful Thursday afternoon in Arizona. Uh, Weather is beautiful today, a lot like what it will be in Mississippi. So maybe the universe is giving us a taste of what it could be like at that time. So wanted to start off today's episode by just touching upon a couple of things. We are still not sure about the status of players such as Max Iannacor and Justin Watley and Jalen Moss ahead of next week. Not sure when we will find out and get complete clarity on that, but hopefully the prognosis is good for all of those players. It obviously would put the team at a disadvantage if even one of them can't go, but we'll see what happens. And before we get today's show started, wanted to just show my Twitter again. It is on the banner below at khicks_21. Please follow me if you get the opportunity to do so at the conclusion of this show. Your support means everything to me, and I will be very active on my X account as I have been. I'll be consistent, and thank you for all the support. I know I say it a lot, but that means everything to me. So, without further ado, let's get today's episode started. I wanted to talk about some potential difference makers that might be going under the radar ahead of the game against Mississippi State. Wanted to talk about a couple of defensive players and a couple of offensive players. I'm going to get a piece up on Arizona State on SI for tomorrow about difference makers on both sides of the ball, but this will be a little different. I'll be talking about mostly players that aren't going to be included in the articles and that are flying a little bit more under the radar than even those guys. So let's get into it. So obviously, Coach Brian Ward has discussed that Mississippi State's offense runs the ball well. Blake Shapen is a mature quarterback that makes the right decisions, that anticipates where his receivers are going. He pretty much does everything right by the book. They run a very fast-paced offense that's going to test the Sun Devils' depth. So that leads me to believe that defensive lineman Jacob Rich Kangaika is going to be a massive player in this game. So we all know CJ Fight. He is a certified game wrecker. He is probably going to be playing on Sundays as soon as this time next season in 2026. And he is the major reason why the Sun Devils finished first in the Big 12 in rushing defense. But Kangaika often gets lost in the fray. He's very active. He's very physical. He's able to break the line. He just might not be as imposing per se as Fight, but he is very impactful in his own right, and I believe that he will be a major factor in the Sun Devils stopping the Bulldogs' rushing attack. Secondly, I want to talk about the reserve edge rushers like Raymar Williams. Raymar Williams could end up being huge in this game. Albert Smith could end up being huge in this game. Obviously, we typically look at Elijah O'Neal and Prince Dorba and Clayton Smith. All those guys will be vital. But as I said, the depth will likely be tested for the Sun Devils. And those are two guys in Albert Smith and Raymar Williams that are very under the radar. They bring a different style of rushing the passer, I suppose, especially Albert Smith. He has a very raw I guess, explosiveness to him off the edge, and they will be vital in throwing Blake Shapen off rhythm and forcing him into decisions that he wouldn't typically make, and that would play right into the hands of Brian Ward's opportunistic ball hawking defense, especially in the secondary. Now, for the third player on the defense I wanted to mention, I wanted to bring up Cyrus Fiaseu. Fiaseu is probably Arizona State's best run support at linebacker. He's a very, very strong communicator. DC Brian Ward lamented on the fact that he is a phenomenal leader. He just doesn't get the requisite credit for being a leader, and he can step in and make an impact on any given play. He really is an invaluable part of the Arizona State linebacking core, even though Keyshawn Elliott and Jordan Crook are the two obvious star level players in that unit. And AJ Cooper's group is very, very proficient, and I feel good about that room in this matchup specifically. So that's all I have for the defensive side of the ball. Now let's go to offense. So for offense, it wasn't necessarily easy because it feels like it comes down to Sam Levitt, Jordan Tyson, and one other player each and every week. But I wanted to talk about Raleek Brown. He was the highest graded Arizona State Sun Devil last week, according to Pro Football Focus. He would have had an even more potent game if his roughly 75-yard reception for a touchdown stood and didn't get called back. It did, unfortunately, so he had to deal with that, but you saw the dual threat ability, you saw his second gear, you saw the explosiveness, you saw his hands, you even saw a little bit of power when he ran in that 6-yard touchdown. He looked like Cam Scatteraboo a little bit. That guy has an incredible ceiling this season, and he very well could be the difference between Arizona State winning the Big 12 again and falling short. So keep an eye on Raleek Brown. The running back room as a whole, honestly, keep an eye on, because I believe that in this matchup you really could utilize all three to your advantage in this specific alignment, this specific matchup. Next, I wanted to talk about the entire offensive line, but especially Ben Coleman. So Ben Coleman is going to be a major, major player in this game. Obviously, his second game at center. He exited the game briefly against NAU, but he should be a full go for the Mississippi State game. There was some struggles with the offensive line. That should be expected because, like Coach Dillingham previously said, when you replace an offensive lineman like Lou Fitano, it's basically like starting two new offensive linemen. Even as good as Ben Coleman is, he's never played center in his life before this season, and that's an adjustment in and of itself. The offensive line is going to have to be very, very communicative, very, very precise to withstand the Mississippi State crowd, the very, very rambunctious Mississippi State crowd. And they're just going to have to just be consistent. Last week, they had moments of brilliance, but it wasn't all that consistent. And I believe this offensive line is one of the top 20 to 25 units in the country. They really just need to show it. They need to cut out the operational penalties. They need to cut out the needless holding penalties. They need to protect Sam Levitt and keep Sam Levitt in the pocket as much as possible. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but I believe those 5 players will be a huge impact, would make a huge impact on Saturday's game. And I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching today and every day. And that is all for today. I will see you tomorrow with a more in-depth preview of the Mississippi State matchup. Thank you.